Corporations are no different than anyone, right? They try to pay as little taxes as possible within the law. It's the American way. Financial website NerdWallet reporting the 10 most profitable companies right here in the United States paid a tax rate of just 9% last year. These are companies like Apple, ExxonMobil, even JP Morgan Chase. The nominal tax rate of 35%, of course. What's the point of a tax code? Seth Hanlon from the Center for American Progress says companies should not be gaming the system like this. Cato's Dan Mitchell says the real problem is the tax code itself. Dan, isn't it the fiduciary responsibility of companies to limit their tax bills within the confines of the law?
If I was a shareholder for any of those companies, I'd be saying, go, 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 get it down to 8%. And as an economist, I'm happy about anything that keeps money in the private sector rather than in the hands of the corrupt politicians here in Washington. But I also hate corruption, sleaze, special interest peddling. And so, yes, I want to rip up the entire corporate tax code, heck, the entire Internal Revenue Code, and put in place a simple and fair flat tax.
Well, how come we keep talking about this and nothing's happening? I mean, Seth, can you really blame these companies here for wanting to preserve their profits?
Well, sure. I mean, of course, they have to follow the law. But I think when you hire hundreds of lawyers and accountants to really find and exploit as many loopholes as you can, that's not exactly the American way. But I think there's something deeper going on, and Dan might have hinted at it. These companies, it's not that they're just simply following the law. They're shaping the law as well. These companies, the 10 you mentioned, spent $50 million on lobbying last year, and the Fortune 500 spent about $2 billion over the last few years. And so this is a tax code that's in many ways written by these companies for their benefit.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know that you could say written by these companies, but the issue is we have been talking about this tax code that needs fixing and that is broken for years. How come we haven't seen any movement on it?
Well,
I mean, this outrages people.
Well, let me jump in there, because if you look at Hong Kong, which has, what, a 16% flat tax, I guarantee you that there's not nearly as much lobbying, because you have a system where it's simple, fair, transparent, and companies, because the tax rate is low, the only incentive they have is to try to produce the best goods and services to sell consumers. That's what we should have here. As I said before, let's rip this thing up. It is so corrupt. It's something where I think we could actually have a right-left alliance, because we all agree the current system is broken. You have high tax rates that affect some companies very adversely, but then you have lots of loopholes, so some companies pay very little. Let's have a level playing field and get the government out of the business of playing favorites.
Seth, you also say Congress is to blame here, right?
Oh, absolutely. Congress isn't blameless, but I think the biggest obstacle to closing some of these loopholes or having any progress on tax reform that levels the playing field between companies, creates a level playing field for domestic workers, is the corporate lobbying here in Washington. And it's the philosophy that any time you close a tax loophole, no matter how egregious, it's a tax increase that's somehow going to kill jobs. And so it's the lobbying dollars and that sort of philosophy that poses a huge obstacle, and it's the reason why our tax code is so broken.
Dan, what changes do you want to see? What change? You want a flat tax, Dan? Tell us the changes you'd like to see in the tax code.
If we get rid of all the loopholes, I think companies might be okay with that, so long as we get a low tax rate. The problem we have in Washington is that a lot of the politicians, especially the class warfare ones, want to get rid of the loopholes, but keep the money and keep the tax rate very high.
Right.
And since we currently have the highest corporate tax rate in the developed world, higher than France, higher than Italy, higher than Greece, I mean, that's a huge competitive hindrance, because don't forget, even though the effective tax rate might be 9%, the marginal tax rate is 35%, and that's what determines additional decisions to invest and create jobs.
Absolutely. And this whole, carried interest, I mean, all the complaints about low tax rates paid by some and not others, I'm really tired of hearing it, because we keep saying and underlining that the tax code needs to be changed, and nothing's being done about it. And these companies are operating within the law. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you soon. We appreciate it. The debate rolls on.